Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I'm 78 years old now, and 5 years ago, I was convinced my best days were behind me. Today, I want to share the extraordinary story of how meeting one remarkable woman completely changed my understanding of aging and the 7 secrets that could add decades to your life. The day I gave up on living. March 2020, standing in my doctor's office, staring at test results that painted a grim picture: high blood pressure, pre-diabetes, cholesterol through the roof. At 73, I felt like my body was a ticking time bomb. "Mr. Peterson," Dr. Martinez said gently, "your numbers suggest you're aging faster than your chronological age. We need to make some serious changes, or I'm concerned about your next 5 years." I walked out of that appointment feeling defeated. My father died at 74, my grandfather at 71. I was already past my family's expiration date, it seemed. That night, I sat in my recliner, remote in hand, thinking about what to do with whatever time I had left. Should I travel while I still could? Get my affairs in order? Start saying goodbye? I felt old, tired, and ready to accept that decline was inevitable. That's when Dorothy changed everything. Meeting the miracle. Dorothy Martinez was 94 years old when I met her at my nephew's wedding 6 months later. While I was sitting at the corner table, exhausted after 2 hours of festivities, she was still on the dance floor at 11 p.m., laughing with guests a third her age. During the bouquet toss, she caught it, on purpose, and announced to the crowd, "At my age, you never know when love might strike again." The whole room erupted in laughter. I couldn't help but stare. This woman had 20 years on me, yet she seemed to have more energy than I'd had in decades. During dinner, she sat next to me, and I learned something that shook my understanding of aging to its core. "You know," Dorothy said, cutting into her steak with the precision of someone half her age, "I didn't start really living until I was 80. I nearly choked on my wine. "What do you mean?" She smiled, her eyes twinkling with mischief. At 80, I realized I'd been aging all wrong. I was following everyone else's script for what old age should look like. That's when I threw out the script and wrote my own. The conversation that followed would change my life forever. Dorothy's impossible truth. "When people ask me about my age," Dorothy continued, "I tell them I'm 94 years young. Most people think I'm being cute, but I'm dead serious. I have more energy now than I did at 70. I'm healthier at 94 than I was at 80. My mind is sharper, and my relationships are deeper. And I wake up every morning excited about what the day might bring." I shook my head. "That's impossible. Bodies don't work that way." Dorothy's expression grew serious. "That's exactly what I thought, until I discovered that everything I believed about aging was wrong." She leaned forward. "Would you like me to show you what I learned?" The next week, I found myself sitting in Dorothy's sunlit kitchen, surrounded by plants, books, and evidence of an incredibly active life. Photos from recent hiking trips, certificates from online courses, thank you letters from the literacy program she volunteered with. "Robert," she said, pouring coffee from a French press, "when you think about people living past 90, what do you picture?" I was honest. Nursing homes, medication, decline, waiting. She nodded sadly. "That's what most people think. But what if I told you that the healthiest, happiest, most vibrant people I know, Gyo, are all over 90? What if the image you have of old age is actually just the result of doing aging wrong?" The Blue Zone Discovery. Dorothy pulled out a worn photo album. 3 years ago, I took a trip to Sardinia, Italy. Have you heard of the Blue Zones? I hadn't. Blue Zones are places around the world where people routinely live past 100, not just surviving, but thriving. Sardinia, Okinawa, Costa Rica's Nicoya Peninsula. When researchers studied these populations, they discovered something remarkable. She showed me photos of herself hiking with centenarians in the mountains of Sardinia, sharing meals with 102-year-old farmers who still work their land. These people aren't genetically superior, they're not wealthy, they don't have access to cutting-edge medicine, but they all share 7 specific habits that most of us completely ignore. Dorothy looked directly at me. When I came back from that trip, I decided to adopt those 7 habits. That was 3 years ago. I was 91, already considered elderly. But look at me now. She stood up and did 10 perfect push-ups on her kitchen floor. I was speechless. Habit number 1, they never truly retire. The first secret, Dorothy said, settling back into her chair, is that centenarians never fully retire from purpose. She explained that in Blue Zones, the concept of complete retirement doesn't exist. People transition from one meaningful role to another, but they never stop contributing. In Okinawa, they have a concept called ikigai, your reason for being. Centenarians don't lose their ikigai when they stop their formal careers. They evolve it. Dorothy showed me her current schedule. At 94, she was teaching English to adult immigrants, mentoring young entrepreneurs through SCORE, writing a memoir about her 50-year nursing career, training to be a docent at the local history museum. Before my Sardinia trip, I thought retirement meant rest, but I learned that purpose is like a muscle, use it or lose it. The moment you stop having reasons to get up in the morning, you start dying. She looked at me seriously. What's your ikigai, Robert? My first assignment. That question haunted me for days. At 73, I'd been drifting since my retirement 5 years earlier. My days were filled with television, doctor appointments, and waiting. Dorothy gave me homework. This week, identify one problem in your community that breaks your heart. Don't try to solve it yet, just identify it. I spent the week really observing my neighborhood. For the first time in years, what I saw shocked me. The local elementary school's reading program was desperate for volunteers. Kids were falling behind because they didn't have enough adults to help with one-on-one reading practice. When I mentioned this to Dorothy, she smiled. And you spent 40 years in education before retiring. Coincidence? That Friday, I walked into Henderson Elementary School and asked if they needed help. Within 2 hours, I was scheduled for 3 reading sessions per week. Something I'd forgotten started stirring inside me, the feeling of being needed. Habit number 2. They move like their lives depend on it.
The second secret, Dorothy continued during our weekly coffee meetings, is that centenarians treat movement as medicine, not exercise.
She explained the difference. Exercise is something you do for 30 minutes, then stop. Movement is woven into everything they do. In the Blue Zones, Dorothy had observed daily life. Centenarians walked to the market, to visit friends, to tend gardens. They climbed stairs instead of using elevators. They worked with their hands, cooking, gardening, crafting. They never sat still for more than an hour at a time. The human body is designed for constant, gentle movement throughout the day. We've created a lifestyle that requires intense exercise to compensate for hours of sitting. Centenarians never stop moving gently. Dorothy's daily routine included walking to the grocery store, 1.2 miles, tending her vegetable garden for 30 minutes each morning, taking stairs whenever possible, standing and stretching every hour while reading, dancing for 20 minutes to her favorite music each evening. "I don't go to a gym," she said. "I live in one." The Movement Challenge. Dorothy challenged me to track my daily steps for a week without changing anything. The results were depressing, barely 2,000 steps per day. "Now," she said, "I want you to add 500 steps every week for 10 weeks. Don't think about it as exercise. Think about it as getting your life back." Week 1, I parked farther away from stores. Week 2, I took one flight of stairs instead of the elevator. Week 3, I walked to the post office instead of driving. Week 4, I started doing reading tutoring standing up for half the session. By week 10, I was averaging 7,500 steps daily without thinking about it. More importantly, I felt energy I hadn't experienced in years. My doctor was stunned at my 6-month checkup. Blood pressure down, cholesterol improved, and I'd lost 18 pounds without dieting. Habit number 3, they eat to live 100 years. The third secret, Dorothy said, preparing lunch in her kitchen, is that centenarians don't diet, they eat with intention. I watched her prepare a simple meal: beans, vegetables, whole grains, a small amount of fish, and olive oil. In every blue zone, the diet follows the same pattern. About 95% plant-based, with small amounts of meat used more like seasoning than the main event. But it's not what they eat, it's how and why they eat. Dorothy explained the principles. They stop eating when they're 80% full. Okinawans call this hara hachi bu. They eat their smallest meal in early evening. They drink wine moderately with friends, never alone. They prepare most meals at home using fresh ingredients. Food is social. Meals are shared and enjoyed slowly. Most importantly, Dorothy said, they never eat while distracted. No TV, no phones, no rushing. Eating is a mindful act of nourishing their bodies. The 80% revolution. The Harahachi-bu principle changed my relationship with food completely. For years, I'd eaten until I felt full, then wondered why I felt sluggish and tired. Dorothy taught me to recognize the difference between satisfied and full. Put your fork down every few bites. Ask yourself, am I still hungry? Or am I eating out of habit? Within 3 weeks, I naturally started eating smaller portions without feeling deprived. My digestion improved, energy levels stabilized, and that constant after-meal drowsiness disappeared. More importantly, I started actually tasting my food again. When you eat slowly and mindfully, even simple meals become incredibly satisfying. Habit number 4, they prioritize sleep like medicine. The fourth secret, Dorothy said during one of our afternoon walks, is that centenarians understand sleep isn't a luxury. It's when your body repairs itself for the next 30 years. She showed me her evening routine: electronics off by 8 p.m., gentle stretching or meditation for 15 minutes, reading fiction, never work-related material until naturally sleepy. Bedroom kept cool, dark and quiet, same sleep schedule every night, including weekends. In blue zones, people naturally align with circadian rhythms. They wake with sunrise, wind down with sunset. They understand that consistent quality sleep is as important as good nutrition. Dorothy slept 7 to 8 hours nightly and took a 20-minute afternoon nap. At 94, I sleep better than I did at 60 because I finally learned how to do it properly. The sleep experiment. My sleep habits were terrible. TV until midnight, checking phone in bed, irregular schedule, too much caffeine.
Dorothy helped me design a sleep transformation.
Week 1, establish a consistent bedtime at 10 p.m. and wake time 6 a.m. Week 2, create an electronics curfew at 9 p.m. Week 3, develop a bedtime routine, herbal tea, light stretching, reading. Week 4, optimize bedroom environment. Blackout curtains, cooler temperature. The changes were dramatic. Within a month, I was falling asleep faster, staying asleep longer, and waking up refreshed instead of groggy. The afternoon energy crashes disappeared. My mood stabilized. Even my memory seemed sharper. Sleep, Dorothy told me, is where longevity actually happens. Everything else just supports it. Habit number 5. They cultivate unshakable social bonds. The 5th secret, Dorothy said, might be the most important. Centenarians are never alone. Not physically alone, socially connected at a deep level. Dorothy introduced me to her chosen family, a group of 8 friends ranging from ages 75 to 102 who'd been meeting weekly for over 20 years. I watched them interact during one of their Thursday dinners. They laughed, argued, supported each other through health scares and family drama. They had inside jokes spanning decades and new adventures they planned together.
Loneliness, Dorothy explained, is as dangerous as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It literally shortens your life. But meaningful relationships, not just social contact, but deep connections, actually strengthen your immune system and reduce inflammation.
In Blue Zones, Dorothy had observed that centenarians maintain relationships across generations. They're not segregated by age, but remain integrated in their communities. They have friends they can call at 2 a.m., people who know their stories, their fears, their dreams, relationships that have depth and history, and mutual support. Building my tribe. At 73, I realized most of my friendships had been work-based and had faded after retirement. My social circle had shrunk to neighbors I waved to and family I saw on holidays. Dorothy helped me understand that building meaningful relationships at any age requires intention and effort. I started by deepening existing connections, called my college roommate I hadn't spoken to in 3 years, invited my neighbor over for coffee instead of just chatting at the mailbox, joined a book club at the library. Then I built new connections,
Volunteered at the literacy program where I met other tutors, joined a hiking group for seniors, started attending community events instead of just reading about them.
Within 6 months, I had a social calendar fuller than it had been in decades. More importantly, I had people who genuinely cared about my well-being and whom I cared about in return. The difference in my mental health was remarkable. Days felt brighter, challenges seemed more manageable, and life felt richer with shared experiences.
Habit number 6, they master stress like a superpower.
The 6th secret, Dorothy said during a particularly stressful week when I was dealing with family health issues, is that centenarians don't avoid stress. They've learned to process it efficiently. She explained that chronic stress is aging in real time. When you're constantly worried, your body produces cortisol and inflammation that literally accelerates cellular aging. But short-term, manageable stress actually strengthens you. Dorothy showed me her stress management toolkit. Daily meditation, even just 10 minutes. Breathing exercises when overwhelmed. physical movement to discharge stress energy, talking problems through with trusted friends, regular time in nature, gratitude practice before bed. In Sardinia, I met a 103-year-old shepherd who'd survived wars, famines, and family tragedies. When I asked his secret, he said, "I worry about today's problems today, tomorrow's problems tomorrow, and I never borrow trouble from next week." The worry experiment. Dorothy taught me a technique that transformed my relationship with stress, the worry window. Instead of letting anxiety consume my entire day, I designated 20 minutes each morning as my official worry time. I'd write down everything I was concerned about, then categorize each worry. Things I could control today, things I could influence, but not control, things completely outside my control. For controllable items, I'd make an action plan. For things I could influence, I'd decide on one small step. For things outside my control, I practiced letting them go. This simple technique reduced my background anxiety by at least 70%. I stopped waking up at 3 a.m. spinning through worst-case scenarios and started sleeping peacefully through the night. Habit number 7. They live with profound gratitude. The 7th and final secret, Dorothy said as we sat watching the sunset from her garden, is that centenarians have mastered the art of appreciation. She explained that in every blue zone, people maintained what researchers called positive affect, an overall sense of contentment and gratitude for their lives. They don't have perfect lives, Dorothy said. They've experienced loss, disappointment, health challenges, financial struggles, but they've learned to focus on what they have rather than what they lack. Dorothy's daily gratitude practice was simple but profound. 3 specific things she was grateful for each morning. 1 person she appreciated, and why. 1 small pleasure she noticed during the day. 1 challenge that had made her stronger. Gratitude, she explained, isn't just positive thinking. It actually rewires your brain to notice good things and reduces the stress hormones that cause aging. The transformation year. 1 year after meeting Dorothy, I went for my annual physical. Dr. Martinez stared at my test results for a long time before speaking.
Robert, in 30 years of practice, I've never seen improvements like this. Your biological markers suggest you've reversed aging by several years. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it.
My numbers. Blood pressure, normal for the first time in a decade. Cholesterol, optimal range. Inflammation markers, dramatically reduced. Cognitive function, improved in all areas tested. Sleep quality, excellent. Energy levels, higher than my 60s.
But the physical improvements were just part of the transformation.
The real changes. The most profound changes weren't measurable by medical tests. I had purpose again through tutoring and community involvement. Instead of dreading empty days, I looked forward to making a difference in children's lives. My relationships were deeper and more satisfying. I'd built a genuine community of friends who enriched my life daily. I felt capable and strong. Instead of seeing my body as failing, I experienced it as a reliable partner in adventures. My outlook changed from pessimistic to curious. Instead of waiting for decline, I wondered what new experiences awaited. I was planning for decades, not years. At 74, I was making 5- and 10-year goals instead of preparing for the end. Dorothy's final gift. Last spring, Dorothy announced she was moving to a retirement community, not because she needed care, but because she wanted to teach other residents about living fully. At 95, she said, I want to spend my energy helping other people discover what we've learned together. Before she left, she gave me a leather-bound journal with 7 sections, one for each longevity habit. Keep track of what you learn, she said. Someday, you'll teach someone else. The science behind the secrets. Curious about the research supporting Dorothy's approach, I dove into longevity studies. What I discovered was remarkable. The habits Dorothy had taught me aligned perfectly with published research on successful aging.
Movement. Regular physical activity can add 3 to 7 years to life expectancy and significantly improve quality of life in later years.
Nutrition. The Blue Zone eating pattern has been shown to reduce risk of heart disease, diabetes, and cognitive decline by 40 to 60%. Sleep. Quality sleep is associated with improved immune function, better mental health, and reduced risk of age-related diseases. Social connection. Strong social ties can increase longevity by 50%, equivalent to quitting smoking or losing excess weight. Stress management. Chronic stress accelerates cellular aging, while effective stress management can slow aging at the genetic level. Purpose. Having a sense of purpose is associated with better cognitive function, improved physical health, and increased longevity.
Gratitude. Regular gratitude practice has been shown to improve sleep, reduce inflammation, and increase overall life satisfaction.
Starting your own transformation. If Dorothy's story resonates with you, here's your 30-day quick start plan.
Week 1. Purpose. Identify one way you can contribute to your community. Volunteer for 2 hours this week. Week 2. Movement. Add 1,000 steps to your daily routine. Take stairs, park farther. Walk to one destination you usually drive to. Week 3. Relationships. Reach out to one person you've lost touch with. Schedule a coffee date with someone you want to know better. Week 4. Self-care. Improve one aspect of sleep, nutrition, or stress management. Choose the area that needs the most attention. The key is starting small and building momentum. Don't try to transform everything at once. Sustainable change happens gradually. Common obstacles and solutions. I'm too old to start now. Dorothy started her transformation at 91. It's never too late to improve your quality of life. I don't have the energy. Start with tiny changes. Often the habits themselves will give you more energy to build on. I don't know anyone to connect with. Begin with activities you enjoy. Shared interests. Naturally create connections. I've tried dieting/exercising before and failed. This isn't about perfection. It's about sustainable lifestyle changes that feel natural and enjoyable. The ripple effect. Adopting these habits didn't just change my life. It influenced everyone around me. My adult children started exercising more and eating better. My grandchildren love having an active grandfather who can keep up with them. Friends began asking for advice about their own aging concerns. The literacy program where I volunteer has become a model for other schools because of the enthusiastic senior volunteers we've attracted. My doctor now refers other patients to me for inspiration about healthy aging. Change creates change. When you start living differently, you give others permission to reimagine what's possible for their own lives. The view from 78.
Today, at 78, I'm healthier, happier, and more engaged with life than I was at 73.
I'm not afraid of aging. I'm excited about the adventures ahead.
I have trips planned, books to write, relationships to deepen, and contributions to make. Instead of counting down years, I'm making years count. Last week, someone asked if I'd want to be young again. My answer surprised me. No. I like who I've become. I like the wisdom, the perspective, the freedom from caring what others think. I just want to be this age and in the healthiest way possible. The promise. Dorothy taught me that aging isn't about decline. It's about evolution. You can become your best self at any age if you're willing to challenge assumptions about what old age has to look like. The 7 habits aren't just about living longer. They're about living better. More energy, better relationships, greater purpose, deeper satisfaction. Your chronological age is just a number. Your biological age is determined by how you live. Your starting point. If you've made it this far, you're already taking the first step toward transforming your own aging experience. Here's your homework. Choose one habit from Dorothy's 7 secrets and commit to it for the next 30 days. Not all 7, just one. Maybe it's taking a 10-minute walk each day, or calling one friend per week, or going to bed 30 minutes earlier, or finding one small way to help others. Start there. Build consistency. Notice how you feel. Then, when that habit feels natural, add another one. The Sunday Dinner Revolution. These days, I still attend family Sunday dinners, but everything has changed. Instead of being the quiet relative in the corner, I'm sharing stories of my adventures, encouraging younger family members to pursue their dreams, and making plans for shared experiences. Last month, my 35-year-old nephew said something that brought tears to my eyes. Uncle Robert, watching you transform your life in your 70s has completely changed how I think about aging. You've shown me that getting older can mean getting better. That's my promise to you. Getting older can mean getting better. Your best years don't have to be behind you. With the right approach, they can be ahead of you.
The final truth.
Dorothy was right about everything. The image most of us have of old age, decline, limitation, irrelevance is just one possible story. It's not the only story, and it doesn't have to be your story. You have more control over your aging experience than you've been told. The choices you make today will determine not just how long you live, but how well you live those years. The wisdom is here. The research supports it. The blueprint exists. The only question is whether you'll take the first step. Your future self, vibrant, engaged, and fully alive at 90, 95, even 100, is waiting for you to make the decision to begin. Thanks for watching, everyone. If Dorothy's story and these 7 secrets inspired you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more practical wisdom about aging well. In the comments below, tell me, which of the 7 habits resonates most with you? That might be your starting point. And remember, in honor of Dorothy Martinez, who taught me that age is just a number, but how you age is a choice. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep choosing vitality